Hello and welcome to the Train 2.0 podcast. Today we have our guest, Joe Calderone, who's from Powell River, BC. And I'm going to let Joe introduce himself right here.
Hi, everyone. Kevin, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm super excited to talk about some hockey. My name is Joe Calderone. I'm the owner of Elite Edges Hockey, a skill development company here in Powell River, BC, on the West Coast, just north of Vancouver. I'm a Hockey Canada certified skills coach, and I've been involved in hockey my whole life. I'm 44 years old. I played in the minor hockey system when I was younger, and then I played 5 years of junior hockey, followed by 16 years of senior men's hockey with the Powell River Regals. And in that time, we managed to capture the 2006 Allen Cup National Championship, which was definitely a career highlight for me as a player. And to this day, I still speak with some of the members on those teams. We had great relationships and great memories in a good team, a culture environment. So those are things that I cherish. And now, since my playing days ended, well, actually, as a matter of fact, I actually was still playing on the Regals when I started getting into coaching. I got into coaching hockey right at the grassroots level in the 2014-15 season with my son, and I haven't looked back since. So I've been coaching for better part of 11, 12 years now. And with skill development. And also I work with the Coastal Tsunami Junior A hockey team out of the Lower Sunshine Coast. I've been working with their spring programs the last couple of years. And so it's basically almost a year-round thing. I also do strength and conditioning for young athletes as well. And I have a home-based gym on my property, like a detached structure from my house. And I've been doing that for since 2011. So over the years, I've had a lot of players move on to the next level. And not only that, I've just built great relationships with fellow coaches and athletes. And I look forward to the future.
Joe, when did you open up your Elite Edges, your coaching practice?
Yeah, good questions. I was involved with factory hockey training before that since 2011, and that was through a connection through the Regals. And since then, they dissolved. So in 2023, I rebranded myself, Elite Edges Hockey, and since then, it's been really good. Like it's really starting to take off, and I couldn't be more happy about it.
No, that's awesome. Well, clearly you have a very decorated resume in terms of offering, skill development and off-ice training to hockey players. So again, thank you for hopping on with us today. And what we're going to talk about is our coaching program that essentially Joe, and this is a really cool conversation, kind of like a full circle moment, because Joe and I in Train 2.0 had been working together since just early 2023. But even before that, you had been, implementing some of the mechanics and stuff like that, which is great. So today, I kind of really want to pick Joe's brain on how Train 2.0 and how the skill development process has really improved his coaching practice at Elite Edges. So it's been a minute since we've had one of these conversations, but we used to hop on coaching calls quite often. And Joe joined us in 2023, and how has it been? Or actually, let's move back here. What was it like coaching before you started taking the Train 2.0 coaches course?
Right. Good question. So when I started, like I was saying, I started coaching at the grassroots level, and then I started year after year, like had a thirst for knowledge, and I wanted to get better as a coach, but I kind of didn't really have a direction of where I wanted to go. And then one day I discovered Train 2.0, and that was actually in 2018. I became a member, and I remember Jason introduced the downhill skating system in the fall of 2018, and I did not hesitate at all. And I purchased the course, and then I started practicing the mechanics. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to lie. At first, I was kind of skeptical because I was trying to figure out how to do the foundational movements, and I was having a hard time. And I thought, I don't know if this actually works. And I'll never forget the day I was at drop-in hockey, just extra ice, working on trying to get that corkscrew down pat. And then all of a sudden, I felt it. And when I felt it, I knew right there that this system really works. And I remember that being a big day for me. And then since then, I just continue to work to master the downhill skating system. And then from there, though, is like, so I was familiar with Coach Now, like the video analysis app. I was familiar with the mechanics, the foundational mechanics, but actually it was early 2024, Kevin, when I signed up for the coach certification program,
That's
where
right.
I really took my coaching to the next level. as far as the program being very detailed and how to streamline the mechanics and different progressions to get the most out of your athletes. Because a lot of times athletes will think they're getting better, but they're actually not, or it takes like 10 times longer to improve at a certain aspect of your skating. Whereas if you work smarter but not harder, you can 10 times your learning, like Jason always says. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I just want to touch on one of the things you said. Sorry not to cut you
yeah,
off there, Joe. But, when you said you were skeptical of downhill skating system and Train 2.0 before, I really felt that. And I remember when I first came into the coaching course in 2020, I took the program and then I was watching Jason do these stutters. And when I saw the stutters, I was just like, okay, what did I just buy here? This is something I've
right,
never seen before.
yeah,
Doesn't really look applicable to anything. And I thought
mhm,
that, I thought of it immediately as like, oh, okay, this is really weird and stuff that I'd never seen before. But then when I started trying it and then I got my players to do it, and then I saw all the NHL examples and the clips of where these mechanics were applied, that's where I kind of had the aha moment. And I was like, oh my God, I had been missing this my entire hockey career. Where was this before? And it's kind of a
right,
funny moment because like we both share that we were like initially skeptical because it was so different than what other skill development coaches or programs had been offering. It wasn't anything like I had seen before. And then it took me a little bit of time to like try it to kind of remove that skepticism. And again, yeah, once I really got onto it, I never looked back. And I think you could speak to this as well. How has
mhm.
your skating, or what was your skating like before downhill
Yeah.
skating system?
It's funny you ask because as a youngster, that was my big knock on my game was my skating. Like I was a little bit of an overweight kid, so I didn't move on the ice very well. And then as I got older, I started to improve a little bit, but I was always known for like carrying a lot of tension in my body. I was a forward and I used to love to get in on the forecheck and just smash bodies. And so I kind of modeled my game after Eric Lindros. He was kind of like my who I looked up to as a teenager. So as you know, that takes a lot of energy, right? I remember my coaches saying, like you need to be a bit smarter and how much energy you're exerting, and and not just run around the ice trying to hit everybody all the time. So then when I got into this downhill skating, I realized like about smooth as fast and fast as smooth. If you kind of can move around the ice with less tension in your body, then you're able to scan the ice, make the best play with the puck, and just essentially improve your hockey sense. So for those of you that listening out there, that yes, the downhill skating system will improve your posture, your mechanics, so you can see the ice. But also, what it does, it'll help the player be able to play in a team structure. So, like this is individual skill. So if you improve that, and then when you're on a hockey team, whatever structure that your head coach wants to play, you can adapt to any kind of system that he's implementing because of your downhill skating mechanics and how it can help you as a player, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And I just kind of want to touch on like some of the changes I made, and I kind of want to hear some of your changes because sometimes it's a little bit different for everyone. But like just to come out and say it, I really didn't know how to punch turn until I found downhill skating system, and then it was introduced to me in a way that was like digestible and understandable. Where
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you have skills coaches out there and they're coaching, okay, you have to do a tight turn around this pylon, and it's like, okay, that's great, but then you have six kids doing it and no one's doing it exactly the same way. Some kids are getting great, are getting great feedback because like you're so fast, so they just naturally pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
Where other guys are struggling, and I was one of those guys who struggled with that. It was a 50-50 whether I was going to lose an edge or not on a real sharp turn.
Right.
And I played my entire junior hockey career that way, but it was just because I was never taught. I never had
Mm-hmm.
that, and Jason calls it the 0 to 1 moment where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, now I can punch turn, or at least I'm on the right direction and I know what needs to change to get there and what adjustments I need to make. But I never had that until I found downhill skating system, right? And
Right.
that's kind of like my 0 to 1 moment. So I just kind of wanted to touch on like what changes did you make to your skating when you found downhill skating system?
Just like you said, like my small space skating, the ability to decelerate, go in another direction, that improved dramatically. My first step quickness, going from a stationary position to exploding for a loose puck, say like 10 to 15 feet away. It was that much better. As a matter of fact, I actually, after my senior men's hockey career was over, I switched over to recreational hockey and old timers, and I became a defenseman. Now I consider myself Quinn Hughes because of the downhill skating system. I completely changed my game, like total 180, and I just love being on the ice, flying around with less effort. And I always preach to the kids that I coach that hockey's more fun when you can skate, right? And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
downhill system, the downhill skating system definitely helps you not only skate, but like I said, be able to handle the puck with your eyes up and scan the ice, and that makes you a really, really dangerous player out there. So yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure, and that's awesome to hear. So it's like sounds like we've had some similar experiences in the sense that
Yeah.
I used to be really tense and tried way too hard when I was skating as well, and then actually relaxing some of my muscles and
Mm-hmm.
relaxing, reducing tension in my skating actually really improved my skate like my performance as a hockey player overall.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's with us. So that's our experience, taking downhill skating system and really applying it to our own mechanics. So what I want to hear about is like, let's say before Train 2.0, what was it like? What did you find it was like coaching players before you found the Train 2.0 program?
Yeah, like what I was saying before, I didn't really have like any, what's the word for it? Structure, I guess. It was kind of like, where do I start? Like, I know skating's an important part of the game, but how do I teach edge control? How do I teach balance? How do I teach a lot of those things, right? So, for lack of a better term, I guess I was kind of lost in a sense. So, with
Mm-hmm.
the Train 2.0 curriculum, when it comes to individual skill of skating, puck control, and shooting, I wouldn't look any further. I wouldn't hesitate, and I would definitely dive into the methods that we use here at Train 2.0, and you won't regret
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like, what did you feel like what changes did you make, like, during taking the course to get your players essentially better results than they did before? Like, what are some of the things that you changed, just for example, or for anyone listening?
Okay, so like for example, whenever, like you said earlier, when you take a tight turn around a cone or a tire in practice, a lot of
Hmm.
kids, what they'll do is they'll default just to what they're comfortable with, right? But at Train 2.0, we talk about relaxing your ankles and giving the player the ability to get on a true outside edge. And a lot of players think they're on their outside edge, but they're not. And that's where the video analysis comes in. So that's
Hmm.
where video analysis training now has come so far, like the ability for a young player like 8, 9, 10 years old to compare themselves to an NHLer and then be able to see like a visual with the drawings on Coach Now and the frame by frame video where you could slow it down, pause, rewind. I think that's really powerful, and I think that's a big reason why these kids are improving so quickly. Like we talked about your experience in junior, my experience in junior, how we didn't really use our outside edge. Well, these kids are learning now at 9, 8, 9, 10 years old. They're doing movements now that we can only dream of at that age, right? So the future does look bright.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel as though, like, just for my own experience, I feel as though if I didn't find Train 2.0, I would have probably taught the same poor mechanics that I
Mm-hmm.
had in my skill development practice. And
Mm-hmm.
because that's all I would have known, because I wouldn't have
Yeah.
studied it the same degree that some of the courses go over the mechanics. So I think
Yeah.
that was like one of the changes that I made is I really learned every mechanic inside and out
Mm-hmm.
to the point where you can isolate it and go step by step with players to get everything right. So your hands are in the right position, your knees are in the right position, your
Mm-hmm.
ankles, the weight distribution of your blade, your head's in the right position. And like all those little details were things that maybe I got one or two of them right before, but I was
Yeah.
missing like the other three, right? So it was just certain postures and
Okay.
certain alignment issues that I had that probably
Yeah.
would have translated into my players. But then when I
Mm-hmm.
found Training 2.0, I was able to find the proper way to do everything. And
Right.
that's really, I think that's that was a big change in my coaching practice and just structuring it in a way that it was very teachable for our athletes. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to ask you now,
But
Joe, do you feel like your players do you feel like they're getting results a lot faster? Do you feel like it's
yeah.
really improved overall?
Yes, before I answer that question, you had me thinking about something when you said about posture. One
Yeah.
thing that you corrected me right away when I took that coach's program. I sent you some video on the corkscrew, and right away you were mentioning my crevice hand positioning and floating elbow, and I had no awareness, absolutely zero of that beforehand. So
Mhm.
right away I started working on that, and right away I started getting results. So that was a huge moment for me as well. And now,
Yeah.
yeah, so now with your question about the kids, those are the things that for me that I learned right away that these kids are learning. And then I want to share with everyone the best part about being a skill development coach is when you have parents texting you or sending you video of their kids at a tournament somewhere on a weekend, and they pull off, for example, a soft drag on a breakaway in overtime to win the game, to win the gold medal and throw gloves in the air and all that. That's just pure gold right there. And then also another parent saying like to saying how their daughter was at a practice on the weekend out of town, and she pulled off the anchor to burn the defender and score. And someone asked her, one of the coaches says, "Where'd you learn that move?" And she goes, "Coach Joe taught me." Right. So those are the things that are very rewarding for us downhill skating coaches at the Train 2.0 is that we study, we practice on ourselves because we only lead others as far as we lead ourselves. We implement our methods, and then the gravy, the finished product, is when a young player, or any player for that matter, pulls off the move that you've been working on in a game to get a result. And it doesn't get any better than that, folks.
Yeah, those are, and I
Yeah.
love how often you send those videos and just talk about that inside our coaching community. We love to see that from our coaches, and you're not alone. There's a lot of other
Mm-hmm.
coaches sending us those videos from parents saying, "Wow, thank you so much for," even when it comes to tryouts, it's like, "Thank you so much for getting my player from A to double A, or maybe
Right.
double A to triple A," just making that jump and just making them a little bit better or a lot better and enough to get them into the league that they want to play in. But yeah, it's those little
Mm-hmm.
moments too where it's like they use this certain technique, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's something that's like direct result of the practice and of the drills that you train
Yeah.
with your player. So that's a really good feeling. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of us experience that now, and it happens often. It's really cool. The more players you coach, the more they implement the mechanics in games, and then the
Yeah.
more the more you're going to get those nice videos or those nice messages. Even like
Yeah.
I've even had junior players, they love that the anchor backhand is one that tends to work really, really well in shootouts or breakaway situations. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really easy to see. So oftentimes players will send me, "Hey, this actually worked." And then they'll send me a video on Instagram or Facebook or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, or wherever. Sometimes they'll text me. They're like, "Hey, this anchored on the goalie, and then I just went backhand. It was so easy, and thank you,
Yeah.
and all that nice stuff." So yeah, it's a cool feeling for sure.
Just to add to that too, what you said, like when a player knows that something that we're teaching will help them, they will
Hmm.
buy in 100%. They will be all in because they know it can help them. And of course, when they turn the TV on and they're watching NHL hockey and they see the mechanics that we're working on, like at the highest level, then again, that gives you more buy-in, right? So
100%. Yeah.
yeah.
Just to touch on like the video analysis portion,
Hmm.
what was life like coaching without video analysis before?
Good question. Like I say to a player, you're not getting on your outside edge on the slalom, and then they would think they would be, and they weren't, and then they couldn't actually see it, so they would try again, and then they still wouldn't. Like maybe they might improve, but it would take a lot longer to improve. And yeah, and then like hard work obviously is still important to get better nowadays, but I feel like in the past when a player would ask a coach, how do I get better? Well, you just have to work harder. Well, like that,
Yeah.
like that again, hard work only gets you so far, but if you can add in video analysis, which is so prominent nowadays, it
Mhm.
10 times your learning. And honestly, I don't know how I coached without video before that.
Yeah, yeah, and just to speak to that, one of the things that one of the problems that I would always run into, I shouldn't say always, but sometimes I'd run into, is players not understanding where they would apply things in a game. So
Yeah.
let's say we would practice corkscrew over and over and over again. It's 20 minutes, and then your guys out there are getting bored. And they're like, Kevin, do we have to keep doing this? Why are we doing this? Well,
Right.
then you just show them a clip of McDavid using the corkscrew in 20
Hmm.
different situations, which
Hmm.
we, supply with our NHL clips in the course. And, you take that iPad or whatever you have on the ice and show them that in whether it's your calls or whether it's your on ice session, they see
Yeah.
that and then it's instant buy-in. It's like,
Yeah.
I want to use this the same way as McDavid. Then they have some context. And then sometimes you tend to
Yeah.
gain a little bit more credibility and a little bit more buy in when players have that. Is that,
Yeah.
has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, let's take the position of defense for example, right? When we were younger, a defenseman would just stand at the offensive zone blue line, like literally stationary, and just
Mm-hmm,
blast
mm-hmm.
slap shots from that. Like, I remember watching Al McInnes on the Calgary Flames back in the day. That was his go-to. He had the best slap shot in the league, and he scored a
Yep.
lot of goals. But if you look at the position of defense now, and in specifically in the offensive zone, they're like a rover. They're always moving off the blue line, down the wall, back up the blue line, and they're using like the 10 and 2, the reverse corkscrew, the punch step. If you look at Hughes, the one thing that really blows me away is and how prominent the downhill skating mechanics are is in that one area of the ice for sure for defensemen. And then it
Mm-hmm.
makes them so dynamic. And so how I like to teach it is we isolate say the 10 and 2, right? With like the boards auxiliary where you get a feel collapsing your ankles and then you progress to going around a circle. But we all know that you don't just do 10 and 2s around circles in a game. So then what you would do is you would take that 10 and 2 mechanic and have them practice it in an area of the ice where they're going to use it. So for example, the offensive zone blue line, then what I like to do is I like to, like, once they get a feel for it and they get good quality reps with their eyes up, then I like to
Mm-hmm.
add coach pressure, right? So that they can see where the coach is and then make the appropriate move. And then eventually what you want to do is you want to get it to like game like live action. So that's where you want to add like player pressure. And then obviously I like to play small area games because there's so many benefits to small area games, but you don't like just do it for to kill time at the end of practice. You do it for a purpose. So say you're working on the 10 and 2 again that day, right? At the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
say someone scores a goal on a wraparound using the 10 and 2 around the net, that's 2 points, for example, right? So it gives the players more context to what we're working on and how they can apply it in a game by having some kind of constraints like that. So that's just an example I want to use right there for you guys out there listening.
There is one guy who does do 10 and 2s around the entire zone, and that's
Yeah,
Kaprizov.
that's right. Yeah.
Because we do have that clip where we teach our players, and oftentimes when we're going around the perimeter of the zone, you'll see them switch from 10 and 2 corkscrew, 10 and 2 corkscrew kind
Yeah.
of thing. But yeah, no, you're right, and that's awesome that you're able to like apply it in those types of like progressions. So like what I heard
Mm-hmm.
there was like you have it isolated to its simplest form, and then
Mm-hmm.
you slowly and gradually increase the difficulty of the mechanic as they go, and then that's
Mm-hmm.
a really good way to structure your drills because you have to
Mm-hmm.
walk before you run, and
Yeah.
you want to make sure that players have a really good understanding of that movement, and then they can progress to higher levels. And then what's really cool too is applying the game situation, and that's a big part of Train 2.0
Yeah.
is kind of applying those random types of situations
Mm-hmm.
and allowing players to use the mechanics from an unconscious level where it's like you as a coach start to see it happen, but they're not really thinking about it anymore. And that's one of the really cool, I think, effects of our program overall. But back
Mm-hmm.
to like the video analysis portion,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel like your players are able to, or just now your players were able to improve a lot faster than if they were did not have video analysis before?
I agree. They can learn a lot faster, but like any player on the ice, some players will like what's the word? They'll accept video analysis more than others.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep, that's
you know what I
true.
mean? Like if you get a group of players, like maybe three kids love looking at their video, other kids dislike it, and some kids like looking at their video a little bit. So if you want to really get 100% benefit of the program, then video analysis is a must. And at this recent Train 2.0 project that I just completed, once
Mm-hmm.
my video analysis were all done for the 10 foundational movements, I sent out a message to everyone, reminding parents to have their athlete view all those mechanics if they want to get the most out of the program. So,
Absolutely. And just for
yeah.
some of the people listening, Joe, why don't you explain what the Train 2.0 project is in a nutshell?
in a nutshell. So basically, what it is I do it in the spring because off season to me is the best opportunity to make big gains in your strength and conditioning, skating, all that kind of stuff. So this Train 2.0 project was a 7-week program where I had the kids on the ice twice a week. I had 2 different groups, but I had maximum 12 skaters, because if you have too many skaters and not enough coaches, then the quality drops off. So you want to keep it nice and small. And what we do is we do weekly briefing calls. So on a Friday, we would do a briefing call, and I would show them what we're going to work on the following week. Then we get on the ice for 2 1 hour and 15-minute sessions. And then the following week would be the next mechanic. So we'd go through the corkscrew right down to the stride, week by week. And some kids were like staples on the Friday afternoon briefing call, and other kids that couldn't make it, they would watch the recording. So, and
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah.
how it was in a nutshell.
I wanted to kind of hear it from you because, as you know, Joe, that's how this entire program started, was when, I asked permission to Jason to deliver this on not only a commercial level, but like delivered his curriculum inside of a program. That's how this all started. So I took players for an entire season, but we were only on once a week, so it was probably similar amount of sessions or maybe a few more.
Right.
But basically, like in a nutshell, we hop on a call, go over all the mechanics that we're going to do, so it minimizes the amount of explanation time that you're using on the ice,
Mm-hmm.
because we all know that ice time is expensive, and we know that ice time, you don't want to waste it, right? It's like you want to make sure that you're utilizing it to the best of your ability. So players know what we're going to do before we hop on the ice, and then we go through that program and teach those mechanics individually, step by step. And then
Mm-hmm.
we provide video analysis as a post session where players can actually see themselves and
Yeah.
they can see and make adjustments for next time. And then we review those adjustments next time and make them
Yeah.
better week by week in a structured, formatted way. So
Yes.
which has really been effective. And I think we can both speak to that after running. I've probably run 20 to 30 of these programs by now. You've ran quite
Yeah.
a few yourself,
Well, yeah.
and it's nice now that we have, there's going to be 40 plus coaches delivering this worldwide for the 2025-2026 season. So I'm really excited to see where it takes us. And Joe, you were number 2 on that
Yeah.
list. So thank you again for enrolling in our program and taking your development to the next level. But before we cap off here, I want to talk
Yeah.
about something else as well. So I want to talk about, like, some of the coaching calls that we did and some of the kind of
Mm-hmm.
mentorship calls in some sense, just to kind of get a feel for the program. What was your coaching process, and like from kind of like a business perspective, before you found the Train 2.0 course?
Yeah. So, like the on ice programming, the coaching certification program gave me some structure when it came to business administration and marketing and all those things that at the time I had zero experience with, because I do my best work on the ice, not off the ice. So when you introduced me to this program, I was introduced to a professional business software, and that software I was able to keep all my contacts in an organized fashion on my computer, with like, so someone, like, say I would have a camp, I would create an ad, like a digital ad. I developed the ability to collect online payment, and from there, like, say I had a new person or a new athlete join Elite Edges, all their contact information would automatically be saved into my software system. Automations were taken care of, like registrations, payment. Whereas before, I would just individually try to track people down for e-transfers, and that takes time. Messaging everybody to say thank you for registering for my Elite Edges hockey camp, that takes time. So with this program, everything was streamlined so that I can spend more time designing practice plans, being on the ice with the kids, coaching, instead of doing administration work. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a part of it where you do have to put in some time, but even, like, for example, on my briefing calls, there was automated reminders on a weekly basis for players, so I didn't have to do that every week, and just things like that, which makes everything just more organized. And it really, really helped me increase my revenue. Like, I can't tell you how much, just a ton, a lot. Like, I'm
Yeah.
really glad I listened to Kevin when he reached out to me. I want you to thank you for reaching out to me and choosing me to, like, train me on how to do this, because now, if you look back, since early 2024, it's about a year and a half, just over a year. and where I am today to compare to where I was then, there's a huge difference. And not only in myself as a business person and as a coach, but my athletes as well. So
Wow. Yeah, no, that's amazing, Joe. And we're really happy to hear that, it's been so productive for you and it's progressed you so far as not only a coach, but like a business owner from that skill development program as well. And it's like, and I thank you as well because we were able to really build this out and help multiple and lots of other skills coaches with
Mhm.
their coaching practices and improve their processes, improve their ability to improve players and to provide video analysis and to overall just get results faster than if they were to try to go it themselves. So yeah,
Okay,
so I'm guessing life is a lot better and easier now that you've
for sure.
enrolled with us and taken our program.
One more thing I want to say about players. Like as skills coaches, yeah, we want to get players to the next level. Like there's a player that just recently got drafted in the Western Hockey League, Cooper Kosminuk, to the Prince George
Wow.
Cougars, and I'm proud of him for that accomplishment. And as we know, like just getting drafted is one thing, but the work never stops. But it doesn't matter if you want to play at the highest level. It doesn't matter if you want to learn how to skate better and play hockey with your friends. It doesn't matter. Maybe you want to be a future coach one day. The biggest thing is make sessions fun, make the kids fall in love with the game so that they're still playing in their older years and they can pass on their knowledge to the next generation of players. And to me, that's the most rewarding part of being a skill development coach. So just remember that, everyone.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great, Joe. And that's the great part about Train 2.0 as well is like it can be as good for a beginner athlete or somebody just introducing themselves to the game as it
Mm-hmm.
can be for somebody, maybe making the jump to junior, or making the jump to college, or making the jump even to a professional league. It can be just as useful. And like, I've done private sessions with players, who are 13 years old who just want to get into the game and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
want to make a competitive team for their first time. And that's really rewarding too for me as a coach to introduce to them the mechanics and then set up a program that they can follow and join us with that can streamline their process of
Mm-hmm.
achieving their goal of making that competitive team. So even on that level, it's really exciting and it's really
Mm-hmm.
rewarding as a coach to get that feeling and get again like those
Yeah.
videos and those messages thanking you of hey, you made a big difference in this person's life
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's really rewarding. So yeah, I love to hear those types of moments as well, and that's a big accomplishment. And here's a good question too.
Mm-hmm.
How long before a player who enrolls in Train 2.0 earns a spot on an NHL roster?
Yeah, who knows? Like the future of the game, I just can't believe in 10 years how much the game has improved. And who knows what the next 10 years brings. But yeah, that would be pretty cool. Yeah, like who knows? It could happen 5 years down the road, 15 years down the road. We don't
Yeah,
know. But all
yeah.
I know is that I'm an Oilers fan and I'm pretty excited about game one tomorrow night. Can't start soon enough.
Yeah, we'll be
Yeah.
taking lots of clips and using whatever we can to teach our players as well. And yeah, I'm excited for that game as well. Not often you get a repeat of the Stanley Cup final, so I'm
No.
hoping McDavid takes full takes the opportunity and finally wins that Stanley Cup because I know he deserves it, and I'd be really happy to see that.
I just have a comment about McDavid. So I don't know how close everyone was watching the Dallas Stars Edmonton series, but in that last game, game five, just when it looked like Dallas was starting to pour it on Edmonton, McDavid got the puck and scored that unbelievable breakaway goal. That kind of reminds me of Mario Lemieux against the Minnesota North Stars that one year in the
Mhm.
finals when it was like a signature moment. So he took the team on his back and he turned that game right around, and that's what good leaders do. And his mechanic was kind of cool. It was almost like two punch steps and then to his forehand.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
I think he was clocked at 35 kilometers an hour is what I heard on that breakaway.
Yeah, he was moving. He was
Yeah,
definitely moving, and then that punch step at the end was nice to see. It was satisfying.
unbelievable. Yeah,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Joe, for joining us. Again, that's Joe at Elite Edges out in Powell River, BC. He runs an excellent skill development company for that community, and I'm really excited to come skate with you someday, Joe. And
yeah.
again, thanks for joining the podcast, and we'll do this again soon.
All right. Thanks for having me, Kevin. Have a good day, everyone.
And if anyone listening is interested in learning more more about our coaching course and the Train 2.0 coaching certification, you can tap the link in the comments here, and we'd be happy to hop on a call with you and introduce you to our program and everything that it has to offer. So again, thanks, Joe, and we'll chat soon.
Go Oilers!